Hi, my name is Dr. Todd Austin. I practice at Austin Family Chiropractic in Verdon, Illinois. What I'm going to talk to you about today is different holistic options for sinus problems. Acute sinusitis, chronic sinusitis, sinus infections, if you will. So we have a lot of different options there other than just antibiotics, which is the typical approach that we usually get going through the medical side of things. I would like to share with you today some different options that tend to work well for sinus problems. Now, first of all, there's something that I really am high on, and that is the NeoMed Sinus Rinse Kit. I recommend that regularly to my patients. I use this on almost a daily basis myself. It consists of this bottle, the NeoMed Sinus Rinse bottle, and then when you buy that, this is available at pretty much any pharmacy carries it. They also have the little sinus rinse saline packets that go with. Now, I will be doing a future video that demonstrates exactly how to do the sinus rinse, but for now I just want to tell you it is a very good thing. A lot of my patients have benefited from it. I have benefited from it personally, and it's a really good thing to do. Now, I should say that you don't wait till you have a severe sinus infection to try this, because it's not going to work too well. This really works best for preventative. So someone that's, let's say, had 3 or 4 sinus infections over the last 6 or 7 months, you need to wait until you're not in an acute sinus episode to start this. And then what I would recommend is you do this every morning, 7 days a week. That seems to be what typically works best for most people. So the NeoMed Sinus Rinse Kit. If you watch my sinus video that I'm going to do about how to use this, I will also show you a little trick that it doesn't tell you about in the instruction manual here, about how to keep some of these nasty things like viruses and bacteria from living up in your sinus cavities. So watch that video when I put it online. I'd also like to talk about some other options. There are some herbal options. Echinacea is a herb, the purple coneflower, if you will, Echinacea purpura. And what I normally recommend to my patients is the standardized extract of Echinacea purpura, and this comes in an alcohol base. It comes in an eyedropper. Just stick it under your tongue, let it dissolve. This is what medical doctors would typically give their patients for sinus infections if you were in Germany. Because unlike the US here, where we have all these crazy laws with the FDA and millions of dollars to approve anything by the FDA. Now, since I'm growing purple coneflower in my backyard, obviously it's not patentable. So in Germany, they don't care. They have actually pretty sane laws there. German medical doctors know that this stuff works well, unlike the medical doctors here that most of them have no training whatsoever in nutrition or herbs. The medical doctors over there are required to be competent when it comes to prescribing herbs, minerals, vitamins, amino acids, different nutritional supplements. So when you go to a medical doctor in Germany with either acute or chronic sinusitis, you are liable to leave with Echinacea purpura standardized extract rather than just some antibiotic. Now, the other thing I'd like to recommend is if you have sinus problems, you should really be taking large doses of vitamin C. Linus Pauling came up with the initial research on this many years ago, but what he talked about was that if we take anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 milligrams, or 2 to 4 grams of vitamin C a day, it's really going to help with fighting off any kind of upper respiratory infection, and that, of course, that would include sinusitis, sinus problems. Another thing that I've found works really well for me in 17 years of chiropractic practice is that a lot of patients that come in with sinus problems, we will tend to find more than not that they have a subluxation, a vertebral subluxation, or a pinched nerve at the second vertebrae, so 2 vertebrae just below the base of the skull on one side, and a lot of times they'll have a subluxation or pinched nerve at the 5th vertebrae on the opposite side. Of course, the nerves coming out at the level of the second vertebrae go back up into the head, and typically they can tie in with sinus problems, sinus symptoms, headaches, stuffy nose, things like that. The nerves that exit at the C5 level will typically affect the throat area. So patients that are also having sore throat symptoms, A lot of times that will tie in with C5. So I've found from my experience a lot of patients that come to me with sinus problems, we have C2 and C5 involvement. Now another thing that works really well for sinus problems from my clinical experience would be acupuncture. Acupuncture works really well. We have a series of patterns that we put a patient through. We use different points in each treatment, that's why we call them patterns. But the first pattern is set up to just balance the body's energy systems. The second pattern adds on top of that, and we go into some local points, which means we can go into some sinus points on the face if we need to. We don't always have to, however. And then with the third pattern, we actually work some really powerful points along the back, right along the spine on both sides. And they really can send a lot of energy everywhere, including to the sinus areas. So acupuncture is a really good form of treatment that we also use for sinuses here at Austin Family Chiropractic. The last few things I'd like to share with you that seem to help out really well with sinus problems, one of them is to take zinc lozenges. Now, for example, most pharmacies you can find these available. They're called Coldeeze, the word cold and then E-E-Z-E. And those are zinc lozenges. Usually if you take a couple of those a day when you have a sinus problem, a lot of times it will really shorten the duration, taking zinc lozenges. So that's a good option. Another great option for people that have sinus problems is to drink a lot of water. Typically if you drink 8 glasses to 12 glasses of water a day while you're fighting some sort of sinus symptoms, that will tend to help out considerably. Actually, with any type of upper respiratory infection, drinking massive amounts of water will help. If you drink a lot of water real quick, you'll be going to the bathroom every 10 to 15 minutes, but a lot of times within a couple of hours you'll start feeling better already. And the last thing I'd like to share with you, this is called a chiropractic pillow or a cervical pillow. And what I have found from my 17 years of clinical experience is that many patients that have a neck problem or have neck symptoms, have headaches, have sinus issues, have upper back problems, a lot of times they can really benefit from using one of these pillows. So this will help to reinforce a normal curve. It'll help take stress off of the neck during the 6 to 8 hours that the patient's laying in bed every night. And a lot of times these will really be beneficial for helping out with sinus issues. The last thing that I'd like to address when it comes to sinus, I can't recommend this enough, and that is to try to avoid drinking milk. Try to avoid drinking milk. Contrary to what the dairy industry tells you, milk is not the most perfect food on the planet. Milk causes inflammation. It's an inflammatory food. There's really no way around that. It's inflammatory food for every single person. Not just certain people, but everyone. Milk is also a mucus former. So if we have sinus problems, chronic sinus problems, we sure as heck don't want to be drinking a lot of milk. Just disregard the slick advertising with everyone wearing their little milk mustache, because if you have sinus problems, chances are milk's not for you. You need to find other alternatives. You can drink rice milk, almond milk, soy milk, but you don't need to drink milk or cow's milk. Well, that's what I would recommend there. So I hope I've given you some good options other than just reaching for the antibiotics next time you have a bout of sinus symptoms that you need to deal with, whether it's acute or whether it's chronic. Hopefully you can use some of these things, take some knowledge away from this video, and next time you can better treat your sinus problems using some holistic methods, whether you have to go see your chiropractor or your acupuncturist, or just visit the local pharmacy and get some of these things like the Neomed Sinus Rinse Kit, the Coldeeze lozenges, or some vitamin C, or the echinacea. Hopefully, next time you have sinus problems, you can deal with it more effectively, and hopefully you can use these things for preventative purposes as well, and avoid future sinus problems. Thank you, and have a great day.